reason why I focus so heavily on the idea that everything flows from internal to external. There's a very ancient saying, and it comes from Hermetic teachings and from other teachings, like in the Kabbalion, that as above, so below, as within, so without. The reason why I focus so much on that is really two reasons. The first is as a constant reminder for me, because I was extremely performative growing up. And I think most of us are in some fashion or another, because at least in the West, and really if you look at the educational system, it's dominated by the Western idea of you perform, and depending on your performance, you get good things or you get nothing. If you do well in school, the way that they want you to do, the way that they want you to learn, what you need to remember, what needs to be repeated and shown and performed on tests and so on, then you get admitted to college. You get whatever the thing might be, right? And so you're constantly from the very beginning, let's say from first grade on, that's, if you're going into college, that's, minimum, like almost 16 years worth of that performance. And the second reason, so for me, the first reason is to remind me that there's something more than that. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. If you want to be fulfilled, if you want to have joy, you want to have love, you want to have peace, fulfillment and stuff. The second is to really lay a foundation that in order to have a healthy life, you have to be healthy in all areas. And the only way to be healthy in all areas is to first have the foundation of the area within yourself, of the foundation of who you are. And trust me, if I would have heard this years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, no, I know who I am. I know exactly who I am, and I know this totally makes sense, and of course. But in reality, if you look at your day-to-day life, are you okay with just being? Are you okay with doing what you want to do fully? You might do it one day, but how about a week? I've been trying to do Facebook ads, and I've learned YouTube ads, and I've been successful with Facebook ads and a couple other things for my business. And I've learned, though, that when I start getting roadblocks, like big roadblocks, internal roadblocks, where I don't actually enjoy what I'm doing, then I know that deep down I'm not following my flow and my path. For me, although it is not as profitable right now to do YouTube ads, I take that back. It's not as possible as profitable. I'm at the gym right now. I'm thinking about the gym. I gotta be present right now. It's not profitable for me to focus on the flow items, which right now is AI agents. I love the idea of AI agents. I've been messing around with them so much. I've actually built a couple of different things and I'm super excited from it, and it actually has helped my business so far. But it's not as profitable. It's not as proven. It's not as put in $1, get $2 out, right? So every time I go and I focus on the YouTube ads, I know it's the logical thing to do, the right thing to do, but internally it's just not. Things keep on popping up. There's a lot of resistance, and I know the difference between resistance of not understanding something and the resistance of this sucks. This is not what I want to do right now, and it's not where my heart is. In our education system, you don't have a choice. So growing up for over a decade in the educational system, you are taught that, yeah, you don't want to do math? Sorry, you got to do it. You got to get that test done. You got to do well on it, and so on. It does not matter what your internal world is telling you. You must do it in order to get the award. A life of fulfillment, of joy, of gratitude, of peace, of abundance does not come with performing for yourself or for others or for ideals or for religions or for politics or anything like that. A life of fulfillment comes from the deep knowing that despite what you see on the outside, and despite the fear that comes with not knowing if something's going to pan out or not, that you still trust yourself and your internal world and your vision, and you go with it. In David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man, he talks about how for men, and I predominantly talk to men, for men, in order to grow, you have to live at your edge, not go far off in past your edge. You have to live at the edges of your life in order to feel like you're challenged and you're growing and you're attaining that kind of masculine freedom and creativity. And then with that comes this idea of being okay with the limbo that will happen. I remember when I built my first 7-figure business. In fact, even before that, it was my first 6-figure business that was different. With my first 6-figure business, I was helping somebody else with marketing online courses. And I remember things kind of started dying down because the person started to focus on something else. You know, there were some weekends with that 6-figure business where we would generate revenue-wise like $150,000 in revenue, $115,000 in revenue in like 4 days. And I got a good chunk of change of that. Usually it was close to half. And eventually it just started dying down because things went up elsewhere in the attention of the other person. And for me, I started freaking out because I'm thinking, my validation and my performing was for this other person. And so I didn't know what to do. And I got stuck in this kind of limbo thing, and I knew I could figure it out. But money was drying up. I had a family to feed, a house to pay for. And ultimately, I was in this stage of like, I need to figure something out. Long and the short was, I had been dabbling in drop shipping on Amazon and nobody else was doing it. And they thought it was not possible and so on. And come to find out, there's a lot of secretive people who were making a lot of money, and I was able to sneak my way in there and start drop shipping on Amazon. The person that I had introduced this to, I was doing the other stuff for, was kind of like, yeah, don't really, it's not really interesting to me. But I knew there was something there, and I trusted for months that despite not seeing any returns, not seeing any results, I was going to be successful with this. It's one of those only times where the switch just kind of clicked, and I started trusting my internal world and trusting myself before I knew all of this stuff from like more of a disciplined aspect. And so once I understood this so going back, I started drop shipping, and boom, things started taking off. And to the point where I was making 7 figures on drop shipping. Really cool. And even with that, things started dying down. Amazon changed their stuff, and internally I started having to trust myself again. It wasn't just perform this, get this money, perform this, get this money. Now things were going down. I had to figure out what was going down. Why was it going down? And is this something I want to stay in? Well, as I was building my business, I started to outsource, and I had problems outsourcing, and I knew I needed to create systems and processes. And long and the short is, I developed these virtual assistants where they would not just help with your business, they would document everything, create systems, and then your business would run without you. So my 7-figure dropshipping business was just completely running without me. And as it was kind of dying down, people started hiring me for systems consulting. But during that time, I'm like, oh crap, what the hell am I going to do? I have no idea what I'm going to do. But I know deep down, these are the things that I'm interested in, and I'm going to go full force into it. And lo and behold, time and time again, it panned out. This is no different right now with these AI agents that I'm just so fascinated with them. And I know that internally that God within me, because Jesus Christ is within you, God is within you, the kingdom of God is within you. And so it's funny when people are like, wait, what do you mean the God in you? And they're like, blasphemy. And when the Bible says it multiple times, plus you're made in the image of God. Hello. The God in me is telling me, this is what I want you to do. Go for it. He does that for everything. You don't need to perform. Like the performance is the performance to get an award from somebody else, to get affection from somebody else, to get money from somebody else, to get praise from somebody else, to get validation from somebody else, to get validation from money, to get validation from your boss, to get something from the outside is secondary to what's on the inside. So the more that you can develop this idea that and you know internally what will make you whole. In the Bible, there's so many different healing parables about being made whole. And being made whole, you know deep down, if you were to just, when you go to bed, start asking yourself questions like, how do I lose weight? Why do I want to lose weight? Do I need to lose weight? How do I be healthy? How can I be healed of XYZ? How can I make more money? How can I develop more skills to make more money in business? Questions that you ask yourself in your subconscious eventually the God within you will answer those things. And to be healthy and be whole is to be healthy in all areas, financially, physically, spiritually, relationally, emotionally, all these different areas. When you are allowing yourself internally to be who you were meant to be and to express internally, outwardly, who you are meant to be in a way where you're not using your logical quote unquote mind, but you are allowing the true you to express and come forth. The true you is always going to do things that are beneficial to you and to others. Just as the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The true you is always going to want to love yourself and your neighbor. And that's in all areas of life. So when you trust yourself to become whole in these areas, what's going to happen is you will become whole in these areas, and you are going to give that wholeness to other people. There's that cliche that's used a lot, that example that's used a lot, that when you are on an airplane and those things pop down for oxygen, you put your mask on first and then you give it to the person, to the child next to you, right? You handle yourself first and you give it to someone next to you. It's the same thing as this. If you start imagining yourself the way that you want to be, night after night, and you start telling yourself, like for me, things I imagine or I'll tell myself all day long is like, I'm magnetic to money. I'm a magnet to money. Money loves to be around me. I love being around money. Money is amazing. Money helps me and I can bless other people with it. I love being able to spend on other people. I love being able to bless other people's businesses, because the more money I make, the more tips I give. And I tell myself these things. Or, I bring joy to everybody. I love being around other people. They love being around me. I love teaching people. And I'll imagine myself in situations. Your subconscious will start to get imprinted with that, and the God within you will start to express it. Think of the people in your life who hate themselves, who think they're losers. They are constantly worried. They're constantly fearful, constantly mad at their situation. Do they express love to other people? Do other people love to be around them? No. 9 times out of 10, unless they're extremely good at hiding it, the ones who are takers, and they're just complainers, and they don't like themselves. They think they're ugly. They need to fix this. They need to fix that. They don't know. A lot of the times, they are not the funnest people to be around, and you feel like you're being taken, like something's being taken from you. But the person who loves themselves, who is literally like, somebody can tell them that they're dumb or fat or ugly or lazy or whatever. Like I've been called the devil. I literally was called the devil on one of the comments, and I'm like, oh, they said I was a golden-tongued, silver-throated devil. And I'm like, oh, dude, I've never been called golden-tongued before. That's great, because I have practiced so much trying to speak well, and what a cool compliment. That is, thank you so much. And I'm not going to thank you on the devil thing, but it is what it is. I used to think that the things that I'm saying right now, years ago, I would have been like, dude, this guy's a heretic. This guy is evil. I totally would understand. I understand. And no, I'm not going to worry about it. I was there. I would have said I would never call someone a devil, but I would say, yeah, you don't want to listen to this guy. He's totally off the beaten path, and he's on the wrong side of town. But to be golden tongue, thank you. In fact, one of my favorite saint, his was Saint John Chrysostom, which that's literally what it means is it's either silver tongue or golden tongue. That's Chrysostom actually means that. And the reason why was he was so eloquent when he would preach that people would call him that. And I always wanted to be called that. That is such a huge compliment. So somebody who is able to take something negative like that, and because internally they are whole, they're able to then, just like it says in Romans, like all things work for good. How does it say? All things work for good for those who love God. Basically, God will always turn something good. And the God in you, when you're made whole, will always turn something into good. If someone says, Dean, you are ugly. To me, because I'm whole, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not ugly, and be like, for me, I'll take it in and be like, oh, okay, maybe I didn't shave today, maybe my hair, maybe they just don't like me, whatever. Learn from it, and then, okay, I'm ugly. There's some people that think that I look handsome. It's just the way it's going to be. But that's because the wholeness inside allows me to then bless them and be like, dude, thanks for telling me, thanks for being honest, thanks for telling me I have something in my teeth, if I have something on my teeth, I don't know. So wrapping this all up, the more that you can get your internal worlds economically, spiritually, relationally, emotionally, physically, all these areas whole, the way you want to be, the way that the God within you is telling you how you want to be. Not for other people, but for what you feel is you. And there are some people, by the way, that are going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to do what I want. I want to do at the expense of others. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like I said, you will always bless your neighbor when you're fully yourself, the way you're meant to be. You'll never take from anybody else. And you'll never be self-delusional where you're where if God's calling you to be physically fit and you're like, I'm just going to be me and start eating and being gluttonous, that's not what I'm talking about. What's really truly going to fulfill you, and what is going to give you that desire of your heart, that's what's going to make all of those whole. So then from that foundation, you can start creating whatever you want to create with a peaceful heart, totally fulfilled, and in a much more powerful way. I've seen it happen over and over. And it's still happening. It'll always happen. So start becoming whole in all of those areas, and you'll see some glorious things happen in your life and in the life of those who love you and who you love.